Evening. Now, Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa has appointed a new cabinet. Professor Mtuli Ncube is the Minister for Finance and Economic Development, and Sibusiso Moyo heads Foreign Affairs and International Trade. Mnangagwa won a disputed vote at the end of July and the first election in the Southern African nation since Robert Mugabe was removed by the army last November after nearly 4 decades in power. The 75-year-old Mnangagwa is under pressure to rebuild an economy afflicted by acute dollar shortages that have hobbled some imports and also unemployment that is now above 80%, and it's also scuttled by the lack of foreign investment. And joining us now via telephone from Harare is SABC correspondent Ephert Musekiwa. Ephert, good evening and welcome to The Full View. Now, this particular announcement, it was awaited, but was it surprising? And how did Zimbabweans respond to the news?
Well, very interesting. It was much anticipated, and the cabinet actually brought in a lot of new faces. I think we can count more than 10 new faces in this new cabinet. We have had some big names, ministers that have been cabinet ministers under former President Robert Mugabe for a very long time, having been dropped, and notably among those is the former health minister, David Parenyatwa, former Home Affairs Minister Albert Mpofu, even the former Finance Minister Patrick Chinamasa. They've all been left out by President Mnangagwa. Also notably absent from the list is the former Defense Minister Sidney Sekramai, whom you recall has been cited by Mugabe as his preferred successor. He has also not been included in that list by President Emmerson Mnangagwa. But interestingly, you also see he has brought in a lot of new faces. Like in the Ministry of Sport, he has opted for Kirsty Coventry. You remember she won gold medals at the Olympics for the Zimbabwe. She is commonly referred to as the Golden Girl for her exploits in the Olympics and the Commonwealth Games. And he's also brought in, like you highlighted earlier, Professor Mtuli Ncube, whom you understand is a former vice president of the African Development Bank. And I think even in his inauguration speech, he has said that economics is going to come ahead of politics. So he has actually appointed someone who's not very much a politician, but more of a banker, more of an economist. So I think it's a clear sign of where he intends or what he intends to be his priorities.
And of course, Mr. Ncube is going to have quite a tough task, Ephert, in trying to actually kickstart the Zimbabwean economy. And not so long ago, he's on record as saying that he would get rid of the Zimbabwean bond notes. So what are people making of his appointment and some of the things that he has already put on record?
I think the most notable reaction obviously would be from social media. This is a platform where people quickly get to air their views. And it's surprising that a lot of people are actually happy with his appointment because, like you indicated, the bond note is a contentious issue here. It is an area where everyone is just saying it has failed to work. Everyone or a lot of people have been calling that the bond note be demonetized and that, the country starts afresh on a new system, on a new scheme. So really it's going to be interesting how this new finance minister is going to tackle the issue of the bond note. So we wait to see once he takes his oath. They are taking their oaths on Monday, this coming Monday, and after he has taken his oath, what would be his area of priority? Would it be the bond notes? Would it be resuscitating the economy? I think we'll only have to find out once he's taken his oath and he's given us the direction that he wants the ministry and the country to take.
And very strategic to that effort would be, of course, the mining ministry, because mining generates half of Zimbabwe's foreign export earnings. And Winston Chitando, he was appointed Mines and Mining Development Minister. And they, of course, have to work together, these two, in order to resuscitate this economy.
Yes, indeed. You remember Winston Chitanto was only first appointed in November when President Mnangagwa took over. He appointed him to the Ministry of Mines. And even if you saw before the elections, before earlier on this year, President Mnangagwa has gone on a countrywide campaign to reopen the mines, to get them funded, to get them resuscitated. And it is clear that he intends to continue on that trajectory. And Chitanto had already indicated that mining, they intend that the mining sector in Zimbabwe should actually lead the country and help the country move out of its current situation.
And Ephert, another sensitive ministry is that of defense, security and war veterans. So who's been appointed to that and what do we know about them?
Interestingly, that for the first time has actually been appointed to a woman. It was handed over to the current ZANU-PF national chairperson, who's Opam Kashiri. She's regarded as one of those high-profile female figures within the ZANU-PF party. She's been in the politics. She's been a cabinet minister under President Robert Mugabe. And lastly, the last ministry she held was an insignificant ministry of water resources, which she was holding. But right now, she's been elevated. I think it's also an indication that, what President Mnangagwa promised, that he wanted women and the youth to play a prominent role in his new cabinet. So he's actually given this ministry to a woman, which is another clear indication or another strong indication of his promise of keeping up with his promises that he made during the campaigns.
And just a final one, he also promised to streamline that cabinet. Has that happened?
Yeah, it seems so. Right now we have, I think there were 20 ministries or 20 ministers that have been appointed. And obviously we have the provincial ministers, but we do understand that their roles are going to be slightly different from the previous cabinet. He has also appointed just a few, about 14 deputy ministers, and which is also another clear indication that he's actually in the process of trimming down on the numbers. Whereas previously we had numbers of up to 23 plus all the total number of ministers were reaching up to as much as 35 in the previous dispensation. But right now he's really tried to trim down on the number of ministries.
Well, thank you so much, SABC correspondent in Harare, Ephert Musekiwa, with a few important touch points there with regard to the latest cabinet appointed by President Emmerson Mnangagwa in Zimbabwe.